next presenter, I've actually also cold called and sold to, which is great. Jeff Perkins. There are a lot of amazing things about Jeff Perkins that I'm about to explain. And there's one bad thing, but I'm going to get to that bad thing in a little bit. Jeff Perkins is the CMO of Park Mobile, over 10 million users. He is like if Jeff Perkins comes on your team, you're either going to get an inflush of cash or you're going to get acquired. It just kind of happens like that, I swear. Before Park Mobile, he worked at QA Symphony, where he built the brand and then also increased revenue by 500%. Worked at PGI, Auto Trader, is an Emory graduate, is a Peloton guy. In his introduction, he wants to make sure anyone who wants to challenge him on the Peloton, he's bald guy, come at him, bro. Park Mobile, recently acquired by BMW. They are absolutely one of Atlanta's success stories. The one thing he did conveniently leave off here is Jeff is a Phillies fan and an Eagles fan. But don't let that ruin this because he's one of the best marketers in Atlanta. Let's give Jeff Perkins a round of applause. Jeff.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Nice. You guys hear me? Good? Good? Well, thanks for coming out today for this session. This should be fun. So yes, like Johnny said, Park Mobile. Let me just, has everyone here heard of Park Mobile or everyone's a Park Mobile user? All right, quiz. Can anyone tell me the zone number at Pont City Market? 222. All right. One thing we do really well when you're at a small company is you give away a lot of swag. As a marketer, I don't just look at it as giving away premium items. I look at it as creating human billboards, right? Something very scrappy. More of you should be wearing your brand uniforms here. But Park Mobile, we're a great success story locally. We're actually about to hit the 11 million user milestone. We had about 1 million users every 90 days now. So it's pretty amazing company, and we're doing really cool things. We've solved one of those weird problems that's no one has figured out how to solve is how do you make parking a little easier, a little smarter. There's a lot of pain that comes along with that I have to deal with on social media on a daily basis when parking doesn't work out and people get ticketed after they use the app, but that's part of the fun challenge. But we do every day about 250,000 parking transactions across the country. So everyone knows us here probably from Atlanta, but we're really all over the place in all the major cities. So really fun company, fun story. Like John said, this year has been a really good year for me. Usually I come up in front of an audience, I'm bemoaning, I'm like the long-suffering Phillies fan. I don't know how it happened that this team with a backup quarterback won the Super Bowl, but if you really want to geek out, I wrote a blog post about it. It's on singlemindedproposition.com, my blog. It's about 10,000 words. My wife read the first paragraph and she's like, I can't read this shit. So just a fair warning. I say I'm from Philly. I'm from a part of Philadelphia a lot of people call Southern New Jersey. So Jersey people here? What exit? Cherry Hill. You're exit 4, just like me. I'm Cherry Hill. There we go, man. What exit? Paulsboro. Nice, nice. See, this is what happens when you get Jersey people together. It becomes the New Jersey support group. All the Jersey transplants that came down here. But from Jersey, like a good Jersey kid, huge Springsteen fan. I'm going to talk about Springsteen a little bit later in the show, but seen him 32 times. And like Brad, I have also kids, so this is like the another video of kids. So Brad showed his kid playing sports. What I do with my kids is I do my presentations in front of them before I present. So this was yesterday, and I just completed the presentation. So let's see some reaction from my daughters.
So what do you guys think of my presentation?
That was the most boring thing in the world. It's the worst.
What do you mean? What was boring about it?
You talked and you talked and you talked and you talked.
Really?
We never want to do that again. Well, marketing is blah, blah, blah.
What would make it better, do you think?
I think if you added some unicorns. And candy.
Okay. So does anyone think I'm not open to constructive feedback on my presentation? So there we go, unicorns and candy. So Early part of my career, I worked at some big companies. Here locally, I worked at Auto Trader PGI. I'd work at the agency side, working for Procter & Gamble, GlaxoSmithKline. So I've always lived in this kind of like universe where you have $50 million budgets and you could spend it in a lot of different things, and you were sort of accountable, but not really. And you didn't ever have to think about being scrappy and what do you do if you don't have any marketing budget to spend. And I had always had this itch to go do something more entrepreneurial. And it was hard because like life at big companies is good. This is Auto Trader annual meeting. That is Kid Rock at an internal company annual meeting. It's hard sometimes to walk away from these big opportunities, but I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial. So I joined a company locally called QA Symphony. QA Symphony actually came out of Tech Village, short stint here. And so I went from working in the Terminus building, which is super nice if you guys haven't been to the Terminus building. So I went from that, and then we went into this building. This is a security center, and we had like a closet basically. So it was a different scale. I had to go buy my own desk, go buy my own computer. There's no IT guys there to help me set it up. But we had a really, really good run at QA Symphony, and I learned some really valuable lessons on how to market a company when you don't have any budget to market a company. And I think that's something probably, I assume there's a lot of founders here, a lot of people working in startups. That's something you have to figure out if you're in a startup, because not doing marketing is not an option. But the difference between a big company and going to a small company is you still have to do marketing. You actually have to do a much better job though, because you have to do a lot with a little bit of money. So I'll talk about things I learned going from enterprise to startup and how to make a big impact on a small budget. So the first thing, and this is the most important thing for startup founders, and it's probably the hardest thing. There are shiny objects everywhere, but you have to focus. So I'm sure some of you may have seen this. This is the chart that outlines all of the marketing technology available to buy today. So if you're a CMO like me, this really sucks because all these sales reps are calling me every day trying to sell me all of this stuff. But the truth is, with all these tools out there, you probably don't need much of it or any of it. And there's nothing automated about doing marketing today. Everyone will sell you on these big dreams, but if you don't have the people, the processes, it's not going to work. So you have to avoid these shiny objects. You have to avoid the silver bullet to all of your problems. This is a mindset you have to have. You can do anything, but you can't do everything, especially as a startup, right? There's so much on your plate, but focus is key. Focus is critical. And we used to do an exercise at QA Symphony where we had very small budgets, and it was very simple. It was a fill in the blanks exercise, right? What is our one biggest problem as a business? It could be we're not growing revenue faster because of blank. We're losing customers because of blank. And you focus 100% of your mind share as a marketer on how do I fill in the blank? How do I fix that one problem for the business? And everything else becomes noise. Everything else becomes noise. 2, knowing your buyer. Knowing your buyer is critical, right? So I'm going to throw some stats at you right now. Buyers are about 70% of the way through the purchase process before they ever engage with a sales rep, right? So they're learning about you before you're even talking to them. 81% of B2B buyers are doing research online. 59% of buyers prefer to do research online rather than talk to your sales rep. And then where are they going online? They're going to Google. Google is a huge resource. Not necessarily they're doing the digging in on research on Google, but Google is a place where they start the research process at different stages of the buying cycle, all right? So the point is, if you are weak online, you're going to be weak offline. You could have the best sales guys in the world, but if your website is not good and you're not optimized for the search engines, no one will find you. First point. We spent an inordinate amount of time at QA Symphony focused on SEO because we realized our buyers, if they wanted to buy a tool, and QA Symphony made a tool for software testing tools, the number one term they were using was software testing tools. So our goal was to rank number one for software testing tools. Now, that took a lot of time, energy. It didn't necessarily cost us from an ad spend perspective, though. And you can see what we did. We said, all right, we need to rank number one. So in August 2016, we were 57. Content, through a lot of link building, we ended up at number 1. And that number 1, because we tracked it, generated hundreds of thousands of dollars for our business. Hundreds of thousands of dollars from going from 57 to number 1. So as you're thinking about your business, think about the search engines, think about SEO, think about what are those key terms those buyers are looking up on Google, and make sure you have a plan to rank for it, right? And this is the growth you saw. So as you improve in SEO, your website traffic will grow from 7,500 in 2015 to almost 40,000 in 2017. During this stage, our company went from $1 million to $10 million ARR, and we raised $40 million Series C. A lot of it driven by this, by the fact that 80% of our leads, 80% of our closed won deals were coming in from marketing leads. So this is what was driving it. This is what was driving it. 3, get your name out there any way you can. One strategy we found really effective was not going to these big industry publications, right? Not going to the industry publications that will charge you a lot of money. We found what we called the watering holes. Where are our buyers going to get information, to connect with each other, and how can we be a part of that conversation? So in the software testing space, there are all these like little bloggy websites out there like softwaretesting.com, softwaretestingclub.com. I'm sure these are sites that you guys are going to every morning to get your QA news. But every one of these sites, on every one of these pages, had a list of the top software testing tools, all right? Like tons of sites that had all these lists. And we were on all these lists, and we were like number 10 or number 7. And so what we did is we said, well, what kind of traffic are these lists driving into our site? And we looked, we're like, actually, we're getting a lot of people from these sites onto our site. So let's start a relationship with these publishers. A lot of these publishers actually happen to be in India, so we reached out to all these publishers, and we said, hey, can you re-review our product? Because we think we're better than number 7. We think we're better than kind of the guys ahead of us. And they said, well, if you pay us $1,000, we'll make you number 1. So being the good marketing guy, I negotiated him down to $800. But so we became number 1 on all of these sites. So if anyone was Googling what's the best software testing tool, and they got to any of these sites, our product, which was called Q-Test, was number 1 on all of these sites. And when we close one a deal, when we close on any deal, I would always jump on the call with the customer right after we closed one. I said, just tell me this, how did you find out about Q-Test? Because we were a smaller company. How did you find out? Well, I Googled, and I started going to all these review sites, and you guys were number 1 on every list. So I put you on my short list, even though I didn't know who you were. These are big enterprise clients. So the watering hole strategy is a key one, watering hole strategy. Don't pay for things you can do for free. So a lot of publications are going to call you. You're going to say, hey, for $5,000, I'm going to do a webinar for your business. And I'm going to get you 200 guaranteed leads for $5,000. So we said, well, maybe we don't need to do that. Why don't we do our own webinar series? So we did it ourselves. It was all our content. We owned it. We started promoting it to our database. We promoted it to all our prospects. We promoted it to all our customers. This was actually one of the first webinars we did. 1,934 people showed up. We were crushing any publication in the industry because they liked the topic. It was interesting. It was relevant content. Don't pay for things you can do for free. We did 1 webinar a month. Our average attendance on a webinar was anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people. And when we tracked deals in the pipeline, almost every deal we closed won, they had attended a webinar at some point. It's a great way to accelerate deals in the pipeline. Applying for awards is usually does not cost anything. I'm really big into applying for awards. If you're a small company, apply for every award you can. It's critical. You want to start getting these logos on your website. It's so important, right? And meet the local press. All the local press will talk to you if you reach out to them. Build these relationships with the local press. Make sure they know who you are. I met Dana Barrett through Twitter. I just reached out to her. And the next week I was on her show. Same with Atlanta Tech Edge, which unfortunately is not around anymore. Reach out to local press. It's a great way to get your name out there in the local technology community. Thinking big. When you're a small company and you have small budgets, the tendency is to think, well, I can't do any really cool stuff that like SalesLoft is doing or Terminus is doing. I just can't do that stuff, Jeff. I don't have enough budget. You got to take a shot sometime. And so our shot at QA Symphony was a user conference. We said, we're going to bring all of our clients into a room. We're going to bring our prospects into a room. And we're going to spend a lot of money on this. And we're going to go into it knowing we're not going to make any money. We're going to lose money on it. So we saw it not as a conference that would make us any money, but a marketing initiative, a way to bring people together. And so we did a conference. It was called Quality Jam. Honestly, one of the scariest things I've ever done, because you kind of open up the ticket sales and no tickets get sold and you realize you have to give away all the tickets. But year one, we had 150 people show up. It was a pretty good result. Year two, we had 450 people show up. And this is a picture from year two. So we were able to really dramatically increase the attendance there. And what was really cool is that after the conference, we got this email from a client that he had sent to his whole executive team. This is a Fortune 500 client, very important for the company. I've gone from being skeptically interested in QA Symphony to seeing Q-Test as my personal preferred solution for test management. QA Symphony customers are like the people I see at mixed martial arts fights, cheering their fighter on in the cage. These are legitimate customers I spoke with, like Home Depot, Sony, Salesforce, Barclays, Disney. The company has a solid growing user base. They are well funded. And in my opinion, from meeting everyone from the CEO down in the company, they have some of the best and brightest people, like a mini Google in Atlanta. This was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my career, to be honest with you. Like Dave Kyle, who's the CEO, came into my office and showed it to me. I was like, we should retire now. If only we had the money to retire, because it doesn't get better than this. Getting a hot prospect in a room with your current customers and seeing this feedback after the fact. So it was a very, very successful event for us. So that was our big thing. Quality Jam has gone on. This year they did it. They had almost 800 people there. And it's gone global. They now do it in London. So really, really great event to showcase the company, the talent, and the product. Being the brand. As founders, as people who are doing marketing in a company, especially companies that are early stage, your job is to be the chief Kool-Aid drinker. If you're not excited about the company, no one is going to be excited about the company. I would always go, I'm on vacation, I'm always wearing my company swag. This is at the top of a mountain in Colorado. And you take it personally if people mess with your brand. And this is something that one of our competitors was doing. So it was a competitor called Zephyr. So they were buying our name in Google, and they were putting up an ad that says, QA Symphony beats HP Quality Center for testing, and driving to a Zephyr landing page. Totally unethical, totally against Google's terms of service, but they weren't getting caught. No one was watching. So I could have gone and said, all right, I'm going to go to the lawyers. I'm going to tell the lawyers at Google that they have to take this down. But I just shamed them on Twitter. So I called them out. And then we got into back and forth. And I was kind of taking screenshots. And I was showing all the stuff that they were doing. And it came down that day. It came down that day. If you think about that, a legal process with Google could have taken a couple weeks. But because we were scrappy, because we're a startup, we just said, let's take matters into our own hands. Again, someone messes with my brand as the founder, as the head of marketing, I'm going to be very aggressive in pushing back. And then I got back kind of into a back and forth with them, and it was fun. And then I saw them at a trade show, and there was almost a fight. It was a whole thing. But again, this is your brand. You got to love your brand. But when you're a small company, you could be scrappy like this. I wouldn't do this if this doesn't go well for you, don't blame me. But I'm just saying this worked well for me. And the last point, back to my Springsteen analogy, what would Springsteen do? So I love this quote, getting an audience is hard, sustaining an audience is hard. It demands a consistency of thought, purpose, and action over a long period of time, right? Bruce has one of the biggest followings of any band out there. He's in his mid to late 60s. He's still performing. He's got a Broadway show right now. I saw him, this is probably 2 years ago in New York. I just want to play this. So why I show that to you is because that was 3 hours and 54 minutes into the show. And everybody's going bananas. And it was like, he's got this thing where he wants everyone at that show to come away with something special and something magical. And I think about that with our customers. And it's not the same thing. People are very passionate about music, but there are things you can do within your business to create raving fans, just like Springsteen creates raving fans. I'll show you a couple examples. This is a woman who had tweeted to the Gaylord Hotel about a noise machine they had. And she's like, what's that noise machine? And the Gaylord tweeted back like, it's this noise machine, you can go get it. And she tweeted back to them, no, that's not the right one. It doesn't have this certain sound. So for some reason, the Gaylord Hotel had this very unique noise machine. And so the next time this person went to stay at the hotel, they gave her one. Kind of cute. But you can see, you reaffirm that there are still companies out there focused on great service. You made a lifelong fan out of me. This is a very famous story. Peter Shankman, consultant. He was flying into Newark Airport. He jokingly tweeted to Morton's that he would love them to meet him there with a steak, and Morton's met him there with a steak, right? And even at Park Mobile, we had a guy give us a one-star review on the iTunes store. But the reason he gave us a one-star review is because we basically ruined his date because he couldn't figure out the app, and he was trying to, it was the only way to park, and this whole thing, it was Valentine's Day, and we totally ruined his date. So we actually sent him a gift card to the restaurant so he could go on a second date, and then we use that in social media. But again, there are little things you can do with your customers that don't require a ton of investment to make them feel special, that will build that affinity towards your business, that will create those raving fans for the long term. So the question is, what are you doing in your business today to create those raving fans? So that's kind of 20 quick minutes on how to make a big impact with a small budget. I think we have a couple minutes for questions, so happy to take them now.
Really, really good. Cool. Anyone have some questions? Great.
What do you think are the best methods for marketing your webinar?
So what we found was that the best methods were always to start with our database, start with our customers. There were also these really niche newsletters in the category that were super cheap to use. So rather than paying $5,000 to go with a big publication that would do a webinar for you, we'd pay like $100 to do an e-blast to the market. And that worked really well. The key to webinars, though, it's not necessarily just the audience. It's two things. It's the speaker and the topic. Speaker and the topic. So one thing that worked really well for us was bringing in thought leaders from around the industry to do these webinars with us. This was really specific. Software testers love webinars. I don't know what it was. They don't love going to conferences as much because I think human interaction doesn't turn them on. But the webinar where they can be in front of a screen, they really like. So for us, that worked really well. But again, the speaker and the topic are the two key things. And then using every platform, using your database, using social media, all those things drove a ton of webinar signups for us. One back. Oh.
Question, so.
And I will recommend On24 is a really good if you want to go all in on webinars, On24 is a great platform for it because the problem with a lot of webinars, once you go beyond 100 attendees, they don't scale. So if you're going to go to 1,000 attendees on a webinar, On24 gives you like a self-service tool that you can do the webinars. You don't have to pay a bunch of money to have all these managed webinars, which gets really expensive. Yes.
Okay, my question's probably not super relatable, but for my personal business, I find that people, because I have such a large following on social media, I find that people are more feeding into, like Brad was talking about, like you have like the fans and like people are feeding more into me as an individual. I wanted to know like how could I market my product and my business more to where people are the same way they're feeding to me as an individual or like liking and keeping up with the things that I do. How can I get them, like how can I market my product to get them to buy more into the business? And I guess like me the same way, but just like get that fan base this way.
Yeah, that's a great question. Having a strong personal brand, especially if you're a founder or you're an executive in a startup, having a strong personal brand actually helps drive your business. I firmly believe that. So what I would tell you not to do is to start hawking your product through your personal brand, right? Be you, be authentic. That's clearly what's growing your social media audience right now. But casually letting people know what you're doing and making sure they're aware that you're running this business or you have this product. There's nothing wrong with that. You always have to walk that line though, but just because you feel like you're not selling your product through social media, you actually are. You actually are. So keep doing what you're doing, keep building your following. Because if people like you, they'll say, hey, how do I figure out what she's doing? Oh, she's doing this product. Well, I like her, so it's that halo onto the product. So don't use your platform, your personal platform, to sell. Just build your personal brand, and that'll halo onto your professional products.
What's your biggest takeaway going from B2B to B2C? So you're a QA Symphony, super B2B sell,
Yeah.
right? Now Park Mobile, no one's doing webinars on parking.
We are actually.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Well
we have to sell to someone. Municipalities and parking garage operators. It's a different kind of
okay,
webinar.
I got it.
No, so at Park Mobile, it's B2B and B2C. Sometimes B2B2C, sometimes B2G. So it's I've worked B2B and B2C almost my whole career. So I tend not to silo myself into like being a B2B marketer or B2C marketer. The tactics are different, the tools are different, but at the end of the day, the best marketers are able to figure out who their audience is, get really deep in knowledge on that audience, and then develop the right plan with the right tactics to attract that audience. And so whether you're B2B or B2C, those are the things you're doing. You just have sometimes different things you're doing across the tactics and how you understand the audience. So I don't know. I don't think it's I never think it's that different. Most of the industry disagrees. Most say, I'm a B2B guy or I'm a B2C guy. I've kind of enjoyed both. It gives you a variety in work. And it's weird because going from QA Symphony, which was like hardcore B2B, targeting software testers, targeting IT professionals. Now I'm targeting, people in Alexandria, Virginia who commute into Washington, D.C., and I have to get outdoor and radio on. For me, it's that variety that makes marketing kind of fun. So I never think there's a huge difference, because as long as you're doing the fundamentals right, whether you're B2B or B2C, it should still work.
What are your criteria for moving out of stealth mode, and what traditional criteria, and what do you think about the way blockchain apps are being marketed?
Blockchain apps, so that's a really interesting one, because blockchain apps were preceded by this huge Bitcoin changing the world, and I think the apps are at a disadvantage because the expectations have been so high. But I think if I were marketing blockchain or anything related to blockchain or Bitcoin, the first thing I would do is try to help people figure out what it is and why it's valuable. And I think that's the thing the industry has missed. How many people here could give me a good dissertation on blockchain or what it means and why it's valuable to them? I get hit up all the time because we do hardcore financial transactions at Park Mobile, 250,000 credit card transactions every day, and we're constantly getting hit up by people that are saying, hey, you should take Bitcoin. And we're like, but we study our customers. None of our customers, and we reach a very mass audience, no one's using Bitcoin to transact. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm answering your question that well, but I think that's specifically a challenging one because the industry expectations are so high, and the products that have been out have kind of been underwhelming. Now, I will say, if you're thinking about when to come out of stealth mode, it's hard to say. I generally think the best thing to do as a startup is have a good product, get a couple customers using the product, and once you have at least one case study of a customer who's willing to say, hey, I use this product and it helped me, then as a marketer, then it's game on. But if you don't have a customer, you just have a cool concept, it's nothing. It's nothing. So get that customer, get a few customers, and once you have it, it's going to be really powerful. One of the most powerful things that our customers told us at QA Symphony, and it's right on the website above the fold, it was a list of our customers. It was our logos of our biggest customers at the time. And we were working with small pockets in Barclays and a small pocket in Office Depot and a small pocket in Nordstrom. So we had only sold each of those businesses probably 5 or 10 seats each. But the fact we had those logos on our website, that made all the difference as far as getting us on the short list and getting us to an evaluation.
Yeah, so have you ever had experience marketing a horizontal product versus, a specific vertical product like you've been talking for both of these? Because that's part of what we struggle with, is we have application across all sorts of different industries and buyers. And so-
Yeah, I mean, it's, are different products for different industries or one product that goes across different?
Yeah, same product set that can be,
Okay.
go across.
Yeah, I mean, we had the same thing at QA Symphony in a way, because we targeted specific industries. So healthcare had a very different IT need or a different QA need than financial services, than e-commerce retail, than software companies. Those are our 4 key verticals. One thing that we had a lot of success with in marketing to key verticals, and we tried a lot of things. Sometimes we had salespeople that were very focused on a vertical. That's a good strategy generally, especially if you have knowledgeable salespeople that know the industry. We developed custom content for each vertical. That was the big thing that we found really helped. So we had an ebook about electronic health records and QA testing. We had an ebook about financial services and security and QA testing. And we even did things on the back end of our website. So if you were coming to our site, there's a tool called Demand Base that lets you do this. There are other tools as well. But if you were coming to our site and we IP tracked you and knew that you were coming in from a financial services industry, you would see a different message. So it would all be about financial services. If you were coming in from healthcare, you would see a different message about healthcare. It would show you logos of our healthcare clients. That was very successful for us, because when you have a buyer coming in and probably their first interaction with you is going to be on your website, you don't want to seem like a guy who doesn't know their industry, right? So that was really important. So we were able to serve up key content that made them think that we were experts in their industry.
Let's give Jeff a round of applause. You'll be around at the happy hour, Jeff?
Yep.
Yeah, great.